Hey, what's up? So today we've got a different type of manga that I haven't really showcased on the channel before. I'm trying to bring more variety into the stuff that I do because outside of the video, like the majority of videos that I do in the books that I show off on my channel are alternative manga, Garo related stuff, Gekiga, that sort of thing. But that's just one facet of my interest in manga. I do read widely. I try to read widely. So in this case, this one I recently finished. This is an autobiographical manga that is titled Sayonara mo iwaずに, which means, and is translated to without saying goodbye. So this is by the mangaka Kentarou Ueno and was published in 2010 by Beam Comics. So to start off things, I want to give a disclaimer and a sort of trigger warning because this is an autobiographical story that is based on Ueno's own experiences with the death of his wife. So there will be in this story topics that include self-harm. If you aren't comfortable with seeing depictions and a story based around the death of a loved one, about the hardships and the struggles that follow dealing with that, overcoming it, then yeah, this one might not be for you because it is a very sensitive and a very heavy story that, it is a reflection of what the mangaka was feeling at the time, their thoughts, how their outlook on life changed after the passing of their wife. So it is not a manga for the light-hearted, I would say. But if you are into that type of thing, then I still would very much recommend this because it's very heartfelt, but the way that Kentaro Ueno showcases his thoughts, portrays everything into manga form of such a traumatic event is very strong. And I think the way that he does it throughout the entire story, this is like a 260 page manga, so quite a big one compared to other manga. The way he does it flows very well, conveys that unique and sort of hard to grasp side of dealing with something like this, dealing with a loss of a family member. But yeah, so I'll just get right into it. And just to give some background for Ueno, normally the other manga that he does is actually gag manga. So the background is that after the passing of his wife Kiho, he had asked his publisher Beam Comics to let him publish this. So it is a very different genre of manga compared to what he normally does. So if you look him up on like any sites like AniList or anything like that, you'll see that yes, his other manga is gag related. So we'll start off with, so I'm just going to go through the whole thing. It is not translated in English. I believe it might be translated in French though. So I'll have to check that again. We'll put that in the description. But yeah, to start off with, so this is him here, Kentaro Ueno, and his wife was shown at the start here. So it is throughout the book as well, because this is autobiographical, he does include his own photographs of them together as well. But yeah, so to explain, what we start off with is we get an insight into the family. So Ueno, his wife Kiho, and their daughter. So I believe their daughter was only around 10 at that time. But yeah, the first part of the story is going through and seeing how their family just live their day-to-day. And this is it's a reference to, what was that? That was that painting by oh man, I forgot the Rene Magritte, I believe, something Lovers. It's a reference to that painting there. But it is told to us that Kiho is suffering from depression. So that's why we get to this sort of look here at her just sitting there but also with the mangaka trying to comfort her, how they navigate this sort of thing, how they support each other. But here they are, and what we have is a sort of lead up to the death. So again, a trigger warning and disclaimer as well that the scene of the death is depicted in the story. So just letting you know beforehand. But yeah, what had happened was that the mangaka had found his wife passed out on the floor. So at this point here, this is what I highly commend and I really feel is the strongest part of the story, is how the mangaka uses figurative like imagery, so metaphorical imagery to portray what he's feeling at the time. Stuff like this, for example, sort of melting away this unique perspective of just looking up from the floor from Kiho. And yeah, this one was a very tough part to read, very emotional, and it's just the loss, that emotion and sense of loss is conveyed so strongly with, you know, all of this erratic paneling of just panic. You can see the panic through the paneling. You can see like the way that he uses this different type of shading as well. Everything sort of falling apart. A lot of the creatures here is sort of like drowning. So we do get a scene of the ambulance coming, but yeah, it is a very tough scene to, probably the toughest scene to go through. A lot of this book is quite heavy as well. But yeah, it's I think in general, I haven't really read that much autobiographical manga. The other one I have read is this one here, My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. This one was an amazing one as well. I put these two together, like one of the best reads I've had in manga in general, with just the way that these mangaka tell these very emotional and sensitive stories and very personal stories as well. But yeah, we do get the scene here of what had happened and when she was declared to be deceased. And again, just the way that he portrays this feeling, having everything dark and that figurative melting away that he feels as well is just, yeah, it's tough. It was a tough read. I think in this line he was saying something like his world losing its meaning because of Kiho passing away. And just so that you know as well, later throughout the story it was explained what the cause of death was. It was not a suicide. It was to do with her, like, a body issue. Previously she had smoked a lot and a couple other things as well. I didn't really get it fully, but they do explain that in the story as well. But yeah, she did collapse, something to do with her airways being blocked, something like that. That's not entirely accurate, but yeah, it was ruled to not be a suicide. So this is where we get some flashbacks as well, and we get a little bit more that is revealed about the inner turmoil from Kiho. You know, she was suffering from depression, and it's very hard to put up the loving face that a daughter would want to see, you know, because she didn't want her daughter to sort of see the pain that she was going through. You know, their daughter's only 10 years old. It's a very tough situation to be in for both Kiho and Kentarou. And this one, a lot of scenes as well where we get these realistic drawings of the characters. This is one of them. Just very hard-hitting, you know, just having a double-page spread of, you can really see the emotions in her eyes, the way that her face is drawn. And a lot of these memories coming back as well. Another example of what I was saying with this figurative way of expressing the endlessness of, well, what feels like time stopping, I guess. Endlessness of this pain. And most of this story is from Kentaro's perspective. He does touch a little bit upon his family and his daughter, but mainly from his perspective. So I'll just move on here a little bit as well. So yeah, this scene is very tough as well, where you know, as per procedures, the police ask him to sort of reenact what had happened. Here is just sitting on the floor, lying in the exact same position that Kiho had fallen in. So it's tough. It's really tough to just have that reenacted again, you know, sleeping in his bed alone for the first time. But again, because he's a mangaka, one thing that they touch upon in this manga as well is that life has to go on. And I found it really sad as well. So this is an example of like what I meant by the photographs that they have. So he would obviously blur the faces, but provide some examples of the photographs and sometimes have like a traced over version of them. But what I was saying before was that, you know, his life as a mangaka, it's tough. The schedule of a mangaka is really tough. If he doesn't draw, he doesn't get paid, that sort of thing. So having to deal with this and also having the publisher's request for him to continue working is just such a tough and such a struggle. You know, it feels like the way he describes it, feels like his world had stopped, lost its meaning, but he still had to go on. He still had to work. And another big thing as well was just telling other people of the news, so informing family on his side and Kiho's side of her passing, having to revisit those memories again and just having to do that again and again, sending letters all over and over and receiving all of these replies back is incredibly tough. The way that he shows it, it's just, oh god, it's very heavy. And yeah, so we continue on with the sort of aftermath. He meets one of the friends of Kiho, more memories as well. This is a sketch that he drew himself. So this is the actual sketch that he drew in 1993 of Kiho. And so this is what we have of the funeral itself. Again, more images, photographs. But yeah, it's an amazing read nonetheless. You know, if you're up for it, right? If you're up for something this heavy, seeing this journey with loss, then it's really an amazing story. But yeah, we'll continue on a little bit more, getting back into some more memories of their time together. And there was this very interesting panel as well, which I'll try to pull up here. So this is like a sort of outburst where he comes back saying, "Tadaima, I'm home, I'm home." We've got these sound effects that show his sobbing, his crying. And yeah, this was one of the panels that I found interesting. This scene here is where he meets with one of the editors of Beam Comics to discuss what he wants to do next. So he wanted to make this story, this event, into a manga. And this is him discussing with his editor at the table. And throughout it, you see all these ink splotches appearing on the page. And just this panel here is just, oh man, it's terrifying the way that's shown here. It's like, to me, how I interpreted it was like him taking on this burden of drawing this story, bringing out those memories and that trauma back again, because in order to write the story, he has to revisit everything, plan it out, figure out how to put it into book form, right? And I guess that's how I saw in that he's taking on this burden. Although he wants to convey that message and it can be cathartic, it is ultimately still a burden to revisit all of those memories again. And yeah, this is another interesting one as well. I don't know all of the references here, but what had happened previously was that I think he got a card or something and he starts breaking down, but instead of showcasing himself breaking down, he references and takes panels of characters from other manga breaking down. So I will put all of the manga and the mangaka that he referenced here in the description. So I know one of them is by, I think this one here, Taniguchi Jiro, manga by him, Shinji Nagashima, Devilman by Nagai. I think you've also got Kawasaki Noboru. I'm not sure which one it is. George Akiyama. You've got Barefoot Gen as well. I believe that's Barefoot Gen. I'm not sure of all of the references, but again, I will put those in the description because there's another, I think, example of referencing other manga as well in here, which I found really impactful, to be honest. Like, instead of showing him crying, it shows the combined emotions of all these other characters, because we are in the manga medium, borrowing from that and using those characters to express what he had felt was a really, honestly, cool decision to have, and very creative one too, and it paid off. So here, I think, yeah, so this is another reference to, I think, a shoujo manga as well. I will put that in the description too. So it's just referencing one of the dialogues from that manga. And I think it's hard to pick like a panel that is the most impactful, but I think this one is very close to the top. What we have here is just a double page spread of just the part, but him here, you see he's slanted. You've got here the sound effects of a gunshot. And what it is that here, it's like time has stopped, but here he's saying that, well, he wants for someone to, shoot him. He wants for someone, for things to end, pretty much. And the way that it was drawn here was just him leaning and that gunshot to the head. It was just, oh man, that was so tough to see. But the art in this is amazing. The emotions are so strong going through all of these artworks. Yeah, this is an example of him doing the manga, I believe. A reference to, I believe this is a reference to a movie. Yes, this is a reference to Blade Runner. I haven't seen Blade Runner, but that's what it says here, a reference to the Blade Runner movie. These are not really references, these are just memories of what they watched together. So The Incredibles, Star Wars, Devilman as well, what's this? Lord of the Rings. But yeah, tough. And this one was a very surprising panel for me to see because I wasn't expecting it at all. This looks like straight out of a horror manga, actually. Just horrific. I guess it's looking at that sort of grief visually manifested here. And yeah, this is where, so we're approaching the end of the manga, and a very sad last scene of him having a dream and meeting Kiho again, and him thanking her and apologizing, and her doing the same to him. And the last, well, one of the last scenes is just saying sayonara, so goodbye for the last time in the stream. And yeah, so it ends there briefly, but we have some credits as well. But towards the end, we've got a little last section here, an epilogue of him walking that desert that we saw, or yeah, the desert that we saw at the start, referencing that part of the story. And him coming home saying Tadaima to his new wife, actually. So yes, what happens, so he did remarry after the in 2000, so this is in 2010. So at that point he had remarried. This is his daughter as well, who's grown up, who's at school. And the last one says okairi, which means I think I'm home. Yeah, I'm home. But yeah, so that was the manga Without Saying Goodbye, or Sayonara mo i waずに by Kentarou Ueno, published in 2010. So a very tough manga to read, but extremely strong, very meaningful, very emotional. The way that he drew everything, the way that the story all flowed from, you know, depictions of the scene as it was objectively, switching between figurative and metaphorical portrayals as well. Forgot to note as well that on the cover, it's a bit shiny, but these teardrops are actually textured, so they're raised a little bit. And the cover, this is keyhole, and you can see a little silhouette of the family there. So the cover is just of the neighborhood, I believe. But yeah, a lot to take in for this manga. Honestly, I think if this was translated into English, it would do pretty well, seeing how successful something like this was, right? This is by Kabi Nagata, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Another autobiographical manga. There are quite a few, you know, out. I'm not that well versed in the world of autobiographical manga, but I believe as of right now, these are the only two that I have read. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. This one was it's an amazing read overall, very memorable, very strong. But yeah, hopefully in the future it does get translated into English, because one of my favorite reads this year, I would say. All right, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.